This 60-minute English transmission is on the air of tonight, the 10th of September 2011 and 12, from 23 hours till midnight Damascus local time. That's from 20 till 21 hours Greenwich Mean Time.
كانت بقايا للغرام بمهجتي 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 فختمت بعدك أنقى من الفجر الضحوك وقد أعرت الفجر خدك وأرق من
We transmit this program through the following satellites: Arabsat orbit location 26 degrees east, frequency 12,054 vertical, symbol rate 27,500, and the FEC is 3 to 4. Nilesat orbit location 7 degrees west, frequency 11,823 vertical, symbol rate 27,500, and the FEC is 5 to 6. And Hotbird orbit location 13 degrees east, frequency 12,015 horizontal, symbol rate 27,500, and the FEC is 3 to 4. These are directed to Europe, North Africa, and the Arab homeland.
كأس النديم وألذ من كأس النديم وقد أبحت الكأس الكأس شهدت
You can also listen to a recording of this program through the internet by going to our websites, which are www.syriaonline.sy, and then click radio programs, and www.radio-damascus.net. Both of the sites are updated daily.
لو عدلت أما رأت عيناك قدك ما كان ضرك لو عدلت أما رأت عيناك قدك وجعلت من جفني متكئا وجعلت من جفني متكئا هو من عيني
Our programs for tonight go as the following: our news bulletin a few minutes from now, to be followed by news and views and the press review, and then our program, which is Listeners Overseas.
إن لم يكن أدبي فخلقك كان أولى أن يصد غضاضتني روضه إن أنا شاقني فشممت وردك وملامتني يا قطر إن أنا راقني فأممت وردك.
Following that, we'll present our news summary and then sign off with the Syrian national anthem at the top of the hour. Best wishes from our sound technician Muhammad Buraki, my partner Basim Bakdash, and myself Khalid Saqbani. You're still listening to Damascus Radio. Now stay tuned for the news.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Damascus Radio. It's time for our news for tonight, read jointly by Khalid Saqbani and Basim Bakdash. An official source said that 30 civilians, including women and children, and 2 law enforcement members were martyred and 64 others were wounded in Aleppo terrorist bombing yesterday, which occurred in front of Al-Hayat Hospital in Al-Mala'ib or Al-Mal'ab al-Baladi neighborhood in Aleppo. The source today added that the explosion was caused by a mid-size shipping car designed to transport food, which was rigged with more than 1,000 kilograms high explosive. The explosion left a crater 6 meters in depth and 50 in diameter. The bombing caused significant material damage to Al-Hayat and Central Hospitals, Al-Nisr al-Suri, or the Syrian Eagle in English, elementary school, and the nearby buildings. The source added that, at the same time, another explosion took place near Qutayba bin Muslim al-Bahili school in the Martyrs district in New Aleppo. The explosion resulted from a booby-trapped car rigged with a 500 kilograms of explosives, claiming 3 lives, including a 10-year-old girl, and wounding 6 civilians. Syria has strongly condemned the series of explosions that hit several areas in Iraq, targeting the oil facilities, military and commercial institutions, and claiming at least 100 lives. In a press statement today, the Foreign and Expatriates Ministry said that these attacks, which aim at undermining Iraq's security and stability and killing the innocent civilians in Iraq, will not succeed to turn this country back, as they will not dissuade the Iraqi people of fortifying their country and enhancing its stability. The ministry offered condolences to the Iraqi government and people, expressing complete solidarity and heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, wishing the injured quick recovery. A series of terrorist attacks yesterday targeted Iraq, the most of which were done by booby-trapped cars in 7 provinces, claiming at least 100 lives and injuring 400 others. Iraq's foreign ministry stressed that the terrorist Al-Qaeda organization is behind these aggressions. The so-called the Islamic State of Iraq, which is affiliated to Al-Qaeda, 2 days ago adopted the implementation of 131 terrorist attacks that rocked Iraq last Ramadan, killing and injuring hundreds of innocent Iraqis. Lebanese terrorist Mohammed Hussein Faris confessed to participating in smuggling weapons, militants and journalists into Syria and committing terrorist acts against Syrians. In confessions broadcast by the Syrian TV yesterday, Faris said that he was instructed by a man called Ahmed Amoun, who leads a terrorist group in Faris village of Jusiye, to smuggle weapons from Lebanon to Syria, along with 3 Syrians living in the same village. Faris also said that they would receive weapons from a man in Mashari' al-Qa'a area in Lebanon, then either deliver them to Amoun or smuggle them across illegal passages into Syria, with Amoun contacting them to transport weapons almost every 3 days. He said that they agreed with Amoun to make each delivery of weapons in exchange for 35,000 Syrian pounds, adding that they also smuggled journalists and militants into Syria in exchange for various sums of money, with them transporting weapons and individuals to Amoun's house in Josieh or to a school occupied by Amun and his group. Khalid?
Thank you, Basim. Within the framework of the government's care for the situation of the families affected by the armed terrorist groups, the Minister of Social Affairs and Labor, Mr. Jassim Zakaria, and the Minister of State for the Syrian Arab Red Crescent Affairs, Joseph Swade, inspected the situation of the affected families in a number of temporary residential centers in Damascus. Minister Zakaria, who is the chairman of the Higher Relief Committee, stressed the government's commitment to offering the necessary care to the affected families through providing their temporary residence centers with the basic needs. On his part, the Minister Swade said that the tour comes within the context of the government's care for the residential centers and the affiliated families to provide them with the basic needs, which include food and health services. Later, Minister Zakaria discussed with the representative of the United Nations Children Fund, the UNICEF, Yusuf Abdul Jalil, the vital role of the ministry in the field of the relief efforts in light of the humanitarian needs and the children's care. The discussions also touched upon the aspects of the standing cooperation between the ministry and the UNICEF's office in the field of implementing the regular cooperation plans regarding the children and women health care. On his part, Abdul Jalil emphasized the UNICEF's commitment to cooperation in the field of children's basic needs, on the respect and the trust with the various Syrian officials and civil societies. Prime Minister Dr. Wael Halaqi said that the health sector is a vital one that is carrying out its duties despite the attacks of the armed terrorist groups, hailing the courage and the efforts of the medical and technical cadres in developing the health services and providing them to citizens. During a meeting on Sunday with the head of the Syrian Doctors Union and members of the Union's Central Council, they said that the government is exerting great efforts to provide the needs of the health sector and the basic needs of the Syrian people as the national steadfastness to solve the current crisis. He gave a review of the measures adopted by the government to help the families that were affected by the current crisis and the preparations underway to hold the National Reconciliation Conference with the aim of solving the crisis in a peaceful way. On his part, the head of the Doctors' Union said that carrying out their duty against all the odds and is enhancing Syria's steadfastness in the face of all the challenges. The Minister of Health, Dr. Saeed Nayev, stressed on Sunday that the ministry has a priority in providing the medical equipment and the drugs for the emergency cases and the public hospitals. During a meeting with the service, Nayev pointed out that there is no medical problem in Syria currently, adding that 92% of the citizens' medical needs are being available. The minister noted that the ministry is working to provide the health services to all the citizens in the affected areas and is cooperating with the authorities concerned to rehabilitate the medical institutions which were affected. It is to be noted that the health sector has been repeatedly attacked by the armed terrorist groups, as 42 of the medical cadres have been martyred and 52 others were injured, in addition to the sabotage of 38 hospitals, 156 healthcare clinics, and 272 ambulance vehicles. Back to you, Basim.
Thank you, Khalid. The Syrian Airlines company announced running flights from Damascus to Amman and increasing the number of its flights to Beirut to facilitate the movement of the Syrian communities abroad to come to Syria as to reduce the impact of the ban imposed by the European Union on the company. Director General of the Syrian Airlines, Ghida Abdul-Latif, said that it is a temporary procedure till the flights to Europe are rerun again. Abdul-Latif added that the company is working with law officers to file a lawsuit against the European Union, since it is committed to the international rules and made no violations since the suspension decision. She said that the European ban decision affected 5,400 working families in Syria. The two flights are scheduled every Saturday and Tuesday to facilitate the movement of passengers between the two countries and Europe. Massive crowds of citizens gathered on the coastline of Tartus to express solidarity with the Syrian national media against the campaign launched against it. The gathered people condemned the decision to stop the broadcast of Syrian TV channels on Nilesat and Arabsat as a desperate attempt to undermine the Syrians' determination and strength. They said that the freedom of expression does not mean silencing the voice of truth, adding that the Syrian media revealed the false news and fabrications of all instigative satellite channels. The participants waved national flags and banners chanting slogans that stress their commitment to the national decision and their rejection of foreign dictates. They stressed unity against the conspiracy targeting the security and stability of their country. German Foreign Minister Guido Westerwelle has asserted, following a meeting with Israeli War Minister Ehud Barak in occupied Jerusalem, that Germany would take into consideration the Israeli security interests upon deciding to sell submarines to Egypt. In the same context, a top source at the Zionist entity said that Israel seeks to reach an agreement with Germany which is similar to those agreements between it and the United States. The source said that the aim behind forming a consultative commission is to be sure that the weapon deals between Germany and the Arab states do not jeopardize the supremacy of the Israeli army. Egypt had earlier signed a contract with a German company for building vessels to buy 2 submarines, but the German government has not ratified the deal yet, while Israel has got 6 submarines from Germany, which financed a big part of their prices. Israel tries to conceal the fact that these submarines are, in fact, nuclear ones. Back to you, Khalid.
Thank you, Basim. Iraq witnessed a bloody day yesterday as a series of terrorist attacks rocked different regions in it. Most of these attacks were carried out by booby-trapped cars. These attacks led to the killing of 88 people and the injury of over 200 others. The Iraqi Interior Ministry has accused the Qaeda organization of carrying out these bloody attacks. The ministry stressed that these attacks are clear attempts to ignite sedition and escalate the political tension. The ministry also added that these attacks are aimed at dispersing the security efforts, pointing out that these bloody attacks target the security and the stability of the Iraqi people. In parallel, the Iraqi Criminal Court issued a death sentence against Tariq al-Hashimi, the Iraqi vice president, following convicting him of acts of terror. The Bahraini opposition factions have asserted their stand by the National Opposition Association al-Wifaq following threats launched by the Bahraini officials against the association after a peaceful demonstration in the Bahraini capital Al-Manama. In a statement, the opposition said that it denounced the systematic campaign against the al-Wifaq association. The opposition pointed out that the statements uttered by the Bahraini officials have come following big breakthroughs in which the opposition was able to lead its marches into the capital, which is besieged, and the citizens are banned from entering it. The British Defence Ministry announced today that a British soldier was killed in an explosive charge which was planted on the roadside in an area south of Afghanistan. The UPI news agency quoted the ministry as saying in a statement that the explosion took place in the Nahr al-Sraj region in the Helmand province yesterday. The British soldier was the second to be killed this September in Afghanistan, as the British Defence Ministry declared yesterday the killing of a soldier who died of his wounds that he sustained last month. It also declared yesterday that one of the ISAF soldiers affiliated to the NATO troops was killed in a bomb explosion south of Afghanistan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, over to my partner Basim for our final item for tonight.
Thank you very much, Khalid. And back to domestic news. The Minister of Industry, Dr. Adnan As-Sukhni, with members of the Board of Directors in the Chamber of Industry of Damascus and its countryside, discussed the problems which are facing the industrialists and the national industry because of sanctions and the terrorist acts on the industrial establishments, as they also discussed facing these problems and finding solutions, emphasizing the role of the industrialists in subsidizing the national economy. The minister pointed to the importance of collaboration between the public and the private sectors, showing that the ministry is ready to provide all kinds of facilities to develop the industrial sector in general. He also indicated that the role of the ministry now will be focused on implementing the industrial policies which have been put, whether for the ministry or for the other ministries, in addition to amending the legislations concerning the implementation of these policies.
With this, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you for joining.
Hey, 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 Syria. Hey, 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 يا بلادي سوريا يا بلادي يا وصية أجدادي يا أرض العبادي يا سراج الليالي رح تبقي منصاني يا أغلى أماني عنوانك عنواني يا فرحة أطفالي سوريا يا بلادي بلادي سوريا زينة الأوطان الله بعين النطق حاميك يا بلادي سوريا زينة الأوطان الله بعين النطق حاميك يا شعبك محبي والوفا عنوان والخير وافر في أراضيك جبالك منارة والعزم صوان والعز كل الرب عاطيك الغيم بوابك مفتوحة لأحبابك حروف المجد كتابك يا ميت الغوالي أدرادك ربينا نحن وأهالينا وباسمك غنينا عايش فينك عالي سوريا يا بلادي بلادي أول بيت للإنسان كل الحضارة ساكنة فيك يا بلادي أول بيت للإنسان وكل الحضارة ساكنة فيك يا فيك الطغارة ووحدة الأديان والنور شعشع في لياليك يا انت الوفا والحب والإيمان وكلمة صلاة للرب صليك وحياتك بلدنا عالحب تعاهدنا خلفك يا أسدنا بعدك ما في غالي حب الشعب سلاحك والوفا مفتاحك خدنا تحت جناحك يا نسر العلايا
بلادي سوريا زينة الأوطان
بعين اللطف حاميكي. شعبك محبة والوفاء عنوان والخير وافر بأراضيكي. جبالك منارة والعزم صوان، جبالك منارة والعزم صوان، والعز كله الرب عاطيكي. بلادي سوريا زينة الأوطان، الله بعين اللطف حاميكي. سوريا.
Damascus Radio presents News and Views.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to all of you. The Neo-Crusades have expanded and sealed up in all direction enlargement. The aim remains unchanged: to besiege the Levant from Euphrates, al-Sham, which includes Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. According to historians, the ultimate purpose of the New Crusaders is to foment a state of intra-conflict and internal dismemberment. In its assault, the colonialist powers excel in deploying high-tech which they abuse as luring bribe for incitement. The means to tempt in are diversified, ranging from glossy, fabulous, and thick book to similarly thin, cylindric death tools. Testifying thereto, an American journalist, Michael Dawson, reveals the deployment in abundance of sophisticated kill devices are never theatrical surgery mini operations at all, but who has the dare and will to face up and nourish man's culture and moral principles? Only their cartoons do. Fresh studies at the Norwegian University for Sciences and Technology indicate that patriarchy and maternity do ward off much of healthy hazards and pregnancy photons. Malice starting from acute heart diseases onward. The researchers, the born-in-weight parents to care for the injured, it which month on will burn he or she. Comments on the find supportively say catering for our own cultural build-up is not a hired job nor voluntary, it is must for the duty, is never a second band dress to put on scale. All this sound melodic, though sublimation and supplication do not go free nowadays under havoc of neo-crusading and recolonialization. One outcome is spared time seeps away. As a result, the objective seem mission impossible. To a fortune run of events, the Neo-Crusaders, led by the Zionist chieftains, let slip of mind the ethical high moral structure of the composition of patriotism and heritage. To enliven back in the historian's memory, these components do exactly as they did before hand time and again, trouble and tussle the balances and all their phony equilibriums that prevailed in mono, bi, or trinity patride world. In sequence, new balances are just at work to restore to the world its characters as designed and dove divinely, and the bedeviled cosmos warfare or mankind is gloomed and doomed. Early science single this ill fate right now.
That was News and Views from Damascus Radio.
أمال الحرارة في غزة وصلت 50، والغيم بيمطر قنابل فوق كروم التين، والأرض صبحت جهنم فجرت براكين. يا ناس دي مش عجايب، هي عادتنا يا مسجلين التاريخ، تاريخ أمتنا. روحوا لغزة خدوا صفحات عزتنا من شارع النصر أو من شارع التلاتين. بلدي يا غزة أرض الأحرار، بلدي يا غزة أرض الأحرار، أمجاد وعزة ثورة وثوار، أمجاد وعزة ثورة وثوار. بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي. في بيت حنون أو في جبليا وفي البرج أو في النصيرات، وفي رفح أو بيت لهي عالشط أو في البيارات. في بيت حنون أو في جبليا وفي البرج أو في النصيرات، وفي رفح أو بيت لهي عالشط أو في البيارات. في كل ناصية
في شارع
هتلاقوا ألغام
ومدافع،
في كل ناصية
في شارع
هتلاقوا ألغام
ومدافع،
وسائر يقول وينادي أموت وتحيا بلدي وبلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي.
بلدي يا غزة أرض الأحرار، بلدي يا غزة أرض الأحرار، أمجاد وعزة ثورة وثوار، أمجاد وعزة ثورة وثوار.
بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي. ياللي عم تتحدانا عم تتحدى فدائيين لك تجارب ويانا في سنة 56. ياللي عم تتحدانا عم تتحدى فدائيين لك تجارب ويانا في سنة 56. مدام سلاحنا
مهدينا
مالكش قعدة
أرضينا،
مادام سلاحنا
مهدينا
مالكش قعدة
أرضينا،
يا إما تهرب أو تلقى موتك على رملة بلدي وبلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي.
بلدي يا غزة أرض الأحرار، بلدي يا غزة أرض الأحرار، أمجاد وعزة ثورة وثوار، أمجاد وعزة ثورة وثوار.
بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي يا بلدي.
بلدي يا غزة أرض الأحرار، 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 بلدي يا غزة.
Damascus Radio presents Syrian Local Press Review.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to all of you. Obviously, the Syrian crisis remains the all local papers question, with particular stress on Russia's stance with Syria. Photos splashing the front and inner pages depict a blast in the Syrian northern city, Aleppo. Other pictures demonstrate an explosion, this time again in Baghdad. Captions added, another bloody day in Iraq. The death toll runs into hundreds in over 20 blastings. Back to Russia's cooperative position and other friendly states, the papers carry the following. Russia pleads with the West to return to the Geneva Convention. Salehi of Iran stresses solution should be Syrians. And Al-Ibrahimi, who succeeds the ill-fated Kofi Annan as UN Special Envoy to Syria, stresses the sole option is political. Fixtures of the armed forces military operations continue their hold with descriptions marking the action as in kind. Prominence goes to the Nasriyin in Tunisia. Quotes from their organization read, Syria is subject to aggression in proximity. It's executed by groups linked with the petrodollars. Similar presentation is given to dispatches from Arab and other circles. They stress end of the plot is close. Dialogue sets the sole medium for exit. Other Arab and non-regional sources focus on a wide variety of topics, all cardinals. Here is a rundown. A Hezbollah leading figure says the March 14 scheme means Lebanon's havoc. The Socialist Democratic Unionist Party in Mauritania deplores the blackout of the Syrian space channels. The party says the suspension is all-out involvement in the aggression. Also denouncing the move is the Palestinian allies in Jordan, Al-Asafir in Jordan, and Iran's Al-Khabar network deploying dispatches. Syria is subject to a ferocious media assault. Atop all such circles, Lebanese sole beneficiary of the plot is the Zionist entity. The local press in parallel cater for purely localized in subjects, tackling the following. The Damascus schools are qualified for the new study year curricula. The instruction minister inspects the classes. Remote censoring is applied for environment services. Health minister pledges double-fold purchase proof for the tumor medics buyouts, and sidelines street speak revolves, this time as usual, on national reconciliation. The program has this as an exile new talk. The repercussions of the crisis unfolding in the country proves the existence of aligned bands that have been tampering lonely and protectively in the society seals and values. The far-reaching objective to undermine the system of norms and the order of morals which work out the divine mosaic of life itself, but to no avail, they do failed frail.
That was a review of the Syrian local press issued in Damascus this morning.
الحلو يا بلدي، عطر الورد البلدي بلدي الحلو يا بلدي، عطر الورد البلدي مهما تفرقنا الأيام راح برجعلك راح برجعلك يا بلدي. بلدي حلوة يا بلدي، عطر الورد البلدي مهما تفرقنا الأيام راح برجعلك راح برجعلك يا بلدي. أنا من حبة ترابك، أنا من بسمة أحبابك، أنا من حبة ترابك، أنا من بسمة أحبابك، أنا كلمة أهلا وسهلا مكتوبة فوق أبوابك، بعد الرب حبك حب حب عبادي يا بلدي يا بلدي. بلدي الحلوة يا بلدي، عطر الورد البلدي مهما تفرقنا الأيام راح برجعلك راح برجعلك يا بلدي. أنا ريش بجانح عصفور تحملها نسمة وبتدور، أنا ريش بجانح عصفور تحملها نسمة وبتدور، تبرم بتلف بهالكون ما بترسي عشقوط بحور إلا بحور اللي فيها نور من أنوارك يا بلدي يا بلدي. بلدي الحلوة يا بلدي، عطر الورد البلدي مهما تفرقنا الأيام راح برجعلك راح برجعلك يا بلدي. أنا بمروجك مزروعة ورد بتضحك لدموعها، أنا بمروجك مزروعة ورد بتضحك لدموعها، خبيك بعيني وقلبي على حبك بصحى وبوع، مهما صار ليل نهار انت بقلبي يا بلدي يا بلدي. بلدي الحلوة يا بلدي، عطر الورد البلدي بلدي الحلوة يا بلدي، عطر الورد البلدي مهما تفرقنا الأيام راح برجعلك راح برجعلك يا بلدي.
أفراحك يا شام وتهني بعشق الملايين، زيدي أفراحك يا شام وتهني بعشق الملايين، عندك شعب الما بينضام بيصنع لك ألف تشرين. زيدي أفراحك يا شام وتهني بعشق الملايين، زيدي أفراحك يا شام وتهني بعشق الملايين، عندك شعب الما بينضام بيصنع لك ألف تشرين. بتذوقي طعم الكربي ودروبك مليانة محبة، ما بتذوقي طعم الكربي ودروبك مليانة محبة. طول ما عندك هيك رجال تحني لراسها الجبال، طول ما عندك هيك رجال تحني لراسها الجبال. وما بتعرف معنى المحال ايام واشهد يا سنين، زيدي افراحك يا شام وتهني بعيش الملايين، زيدي افراحك يا شام وتهني بعيش الملايين. عندك شعب الما بينضام بيصنع لك ألف تشرين، مثلك يا شام مين عنده قدر وتشرين، من مثلك يا شام مين عنده قدر وتشرين. وبدك هالعالم ما يغار وانت العلم فوق النار، بدك هالعالم ما يغار وانت العلم فوق النار. والنصر وكليل الغار فوق جبينك تلاحين، زيدي افراحك يا شام وتهني بعشق الملايين، زيدي افراحك يا شام وتهني بعشق الملايين. عندك شعب الما بينضام بيصنع لك ألف تشرين.
Radio Damascus presents Listeners Overseas. Prepared and presented by Randa Qaddura. Sound technician Hamdi Shweki.
Good evening, dear listeners and dear friends, to all of you, and welcome again to this new edition of your weekly program, Listeners Overseas. Dear listeners, you can listen to this program through the following satellites on the Arabsat, orbit location 26 degrees east, frequency 12054 vertical, symbol rate 27500, and a frequency 3/4. On the Nilesat, orbit location 7 degrees west, frequency 11823 vertical, symbol rate 27500, frequency 5 to 6. On the Hotbird, orbit location 13 degrees east, frequency 12015 horizontal, symbol rate 27500, frequency 3/4, directed to the Arab homeland, North Africa and Europe. And we transmit this program through the following two shortwave frequencies: 12085 kHz per second equals to 24.8 meters, directed to Europe and North America, as well as 9.330 kHz per second equals 32.2 meters, directed to Australia, New Zealand and Japan. You can listen to a recording of our program through the internet by logging on to our websites, which are www.syriaonline.sy, and then click the link Radio Programs. The other alternative website is www.radio-damascus.net. Both websites are updated daily.
has always been a center where East and West meet with their varied civilization. It is no wonder that Syria is the cradle of civilization, which flourished throughout history. Monuments, the most important archaeological sites, impregnable castles, citadels, and dead cities narrate the glorious history of ancient nations. The basaltic and the limestone ruins tell about a marvelous architectural art. The Corinthian columns, the khans spread all over the Silk Road, the castles still touring from the medieval ages, the mosques and palaces are the witnesses of a great rich history. To know Syria is to have knowledge of a legendary world. Palmyra, for example, is like a pearl in the heart of the desert. Palmyra, rising from the sands, is one of the most graceful and splendid ancient sites in the East, for the glory and the greatness are still evident, and fully years after its construction by the Arab queen Zenobia, it remains one of the most famous capitals of the ancient world. Palmyra is separated by some 100 kilometers of steppe from the lush valley of the Orontes to the west. There are more than 200 kilometers of desert to the cross before you reach the fertile banks of the Euphrates to the east. To both north and south there is nothing but sand and stone. But here at Palmyra, a last fold of the anti-Lebanon forms a kind of basin on the edge of which a spring rises out of a long underground channel whose depth has never been measured. This spring is called Afqa or Efka in inscriptions, an Arabic word meaning way out. Its clear blue, slightly sulphurous waters are said to have medicinal properties. They have fed an oasis here with olives and date palms and cotton and cereals. For a generation, this oasis was known as Tadmor. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the weekly program Listeners Overseas. If you like to send us any letters, don't hesitate to write it on the following address: Syria, Damascus, English section, Post Office Box number is 4702, Syrian Arab Republic. And finally, dear listeners and dear friends, I'd like to thank you all for listening to our program in Radio Damascus. From our sound technician Hamdi Shweki and also from Miranda Qandura, wish you to have a very pleasant time. Bye-bye to all of you.
You're listening to Damascus Radio, the broadcasting service of the Syrian Arab Republic. Before we sign off the national anthem, here is a final look at the news summary. An official source says that 30 civilians, including women and children, and 2 law enforcement members are martyred, while 64 others are wounded in Aleppo terrorist bombing yesterday. Syria vehemently condemns the series of explosions that hit several areas in Iraq, targeting oil facilities, military and commercial institutions, and claiming at least 100 lives. Prime Minister Dr. Wael Halqi says that the health sector is a vital one that is carrying out its duties despite the attacks of armed terrorist groups. The Syrian Airlines company announces running flights from Damascus to Amman and increasing the number of its flights to Beirut. Crowds of citizens gather on the coastline of Tartus to express solidarity with the Syrian national media against the campaign launched against it. And Iraq witnesses a bloody day as a series of terrorist attacks rocked different regions of it. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our transmission for tonight. Until we meet again tomorrow at the same time and on the same frequencies, we wish you all the best from Damascus Radio, the broadcasting service of the Syrian Arab Republic. Good night.